Hi, my name is Peter Ivanov. With coronavirus expanding, now many people are sent to work from home. And some of them don't have experience with that or very limited experience. And they have to work effectively, manage their samples, and also be integrated as part of a virtual team. But sometimes the skills necessary are not there. So I've been asked the following questions, trying to shed light on the effective virtual collaboration. First one, what are the challenges of working from home? Especially for the people who don't have much experience with that. I think one of the challenges is people don't take rest. Usually if you're in the office, you will be interrupted, somebody will come and ask you bye, you go and grab a coffee. Now at home, unless you have kids and other people living in the same house while you work, you may opt for working continuously. So my recommendation would be take regular breaks. I personally take break every 25 minutes. I take 5-minute breaks, and every 2 hours I take a bit longer break, 15 to 20 minutes. So just by moving, just by putting some oxygen, you will energize and it will improve your creativity and focus. The break could be, again, personally I prefer active breaks, so I would do some exercise, maybe a little bit of yoga, maybe put a dance, but it's up to you. It could be rather subtle, could be some art inspiration. Take breaks. Secondly, bundle things. It's applicable for office and home office, but I think in home office it will give you even further flow. So try to bundle the more creative tasks in one section, then have the calls in another section. You do the calls simultaneously, just repeat the task, and then the emails in another one. I would recommend, again, it's not just applicable for home office, but now you need a bit more structure. Otherwise, you're driven by colleagues and you may be put into the office routine. Now you have to build your own routine. So for emails, I would recommend you to kind of check it like 3 times a day, unless your job requires a lot of urgent responses. Many companies that I work with, remote companies, sometimes fully remote, don't have an office, so they're all the time home office and sometimes co-location. They will check it in the morning, around lunchtime, and then in the evening. And they have a pre-agreed response time on the email, which could be 2 hours, could be 4 hours. The team has to decide and stick to the rule. Now, in what traps can we catch us where to pay attention? I think the usual traps or distractions, one of them is Netflix. or Amazon Prime, on all these movies that, you know, they're done in a beautiful way and they help you relax in the evening, but they could, you know, take a lot of time unless you pay attention. The other one, in terms of traps, some people need a physical separator when they start work. And this could be, for example, you dress up a little bit. You don't go with your usual attire. Some people, on the other hand, may prefer, you know, to enjoy. They've been going to the office sometimes, you know, quite dressed up. They could just spend the day working with their pajamas. So play around with the dress code, depending what part of, you know, the equation you are. What are the main possible interrupters and how to deal with them? The goal is to be as productive as at office. Now, one of the main interrupters, if you have kids, for example, and I have 5 kids and some are quite little, and they usually, if you're at home, you're there to play. So they would just come up and ask you things or just, you know, invite you to play with them in a very kind of demanding and attractive manner. Or you may want to, you know, to do some errands, which if you're in the office, you'll do it beginning and the end. In home, you have a lot more flexibility. Or the social media, which again is in the office, but here you have less control. There will be less people observing you and watching you what you do. So for this, you need discipline. You need a bit of discipline and self-motivation. And that's one of the reasons that usually not everyone is very suitable to work remotely. One of the factors is really you have to be a bit of a self-motivator. I have clients which released the office, started working remotely, and then after 3 months, they lost some of their key people. They just couldn't get the kick, you know, to work every day. So for those people that are now forced to work from home, you have to bring them some extra motivations. And I will address that a bit further. It's about gamification and fun. There are many things you could do to make the experience more enjoyable, to make the connection with the other people more tangible. For example, avatar you can come up with the avatar of the week, and then it could be some gamification of the coolest avatar. Or there are many things that you could exchange on a particular topic and subject and make it a bit more engaging and a bit more fun. How to avoid extending work through all day, how to control the home disruptions. I've mentioned for the email checking, my recommendation 2 to 3 times a day. Social media, similarly, try to put discipline and have some slot when you check. Don't check every 5 minutes. Maybe disable the notifications of Facebook and so on, so you're not attracted by the red flagged number. Try to set the time aside. Communicate your availability. For example, for your kids, or you have parents living in the house, maybe you should consider putting on your table a special gesture like do not disturb sign or anything that shows that you are working. And you are not kind of fully closed for them. You announce in advance, you communicate properly that from this to this hour you're available, but you also need privacy. And maybe set up a little room where you could have a private conferences, because yeah, if there are many people, all this noise that may come will not be suitable. So if you have to work on longer from home, try to set up a separate room. Also, introduce online hours. Now, particularly we have more time zones, but even not, people, when they work from home, they would enjoy some flexibility. In fact, what do you think is the main reason for people wanting to work remotely? There was extensive global survey, and the #1 reason is work whenever you like. So the first attraction is that you can schedule and you could kind of manage and determine your own agenda. So because this is a benefit and people appreciate it, and all of a sudden now they have this opportunity, ensure you have like 3-4 hours a day where everybody on the team that works closely together is available. This available online hours will, if there is a conflict to resolve, or if there is some brainstorming to do, people will be there and you could do it with the whole attendance. And if you have more time zones, that becomes critical. What are these couple of limited hours where everybody is online? Maybe some have to sacrifice and start earlier or work a little bit later. Now, use also the asynchronous channels, like Slack is a typical example. So you have the messengers where it will notify immediately. Slack, you may turn on, turn off the notifications, but you have a good way to distinguish between different categories and projects and channels. And also, if you have more time zones, it's become very precious. Instead of the email, because you don't have to always go to and from, and you have 30% of the content on the email is irrelevant, and you have to scroll on average 3 to 4 times up and down before you find the content you need. With those kind of channels like Slack or tools, 70%, according to research, of the content is relevant. So use it for asynchronous communications, particularly if you have more time zones. Next question, how to create a working environment at home? Maybe away from the kitchen, empty the table, and so on. I think you need a stable internet access, so you need to have a good connection wireless. You may consider putting some extra infrastructure if you have multiple stories and so on, so you have really in your private conference room a better connection. I mentioned you could put some symbols like do not disturb and so on to make sure people see that you're working, but also communicate your availability for them. Next question, what should employees do when sending employees working from home? Now, I think I have companies in the outsourcing industry, clients, which their main retention was before Corona to retain the talent. Because those people, many of them work from home and they get bored, they jump on the next opportunity. So we developed a couple of solutions, but #1, by far the most important one is, by the way, do you know what is the most important skill to running people remotely? Again, I was in Bali speaking on an event, and there was a huge crowd, and they asked the audience, and it was online, same question, what is the most important skill to manage, to lead people remotely? And the answer, after people submitted, the tool kind of enlarges the right answer, was over-communicate. So when you're in the office, you can just communicate the task. And if people have questions, they will come to you. And you will see their reaction when you see if their expression they understand. If you do this online remotely, they don't. So it's your task as a manager to over communicate in a positive way. Don't just describe the task, but describe the bigger goal which this task serves. And then even more, describe why we do what we do. So if people have the bigger picture, which they would lack unless you do it, they will be able to have this guiding star, and you will improve their productivity significantly. And because micromanagement is not an option in virtual teams, in remote work, you have to give them a bit more context so they could manage and decide on the how on their own. That would significantly improve the performance of your team. Number two is around recognition. So recognition is the #1 factor for people leaving companies. They don't leave companies, they leave the bosses because of lack of recognition. In a remote space, it's even more scarce. So you need to consciously put efforts for that. So you could, for example, company implement like a kudos system. People, there is a portal, there is a forum where people would raise appraisal and acknowledgement of to whom, who I acknowledge and recognize, and for what. And people can also vote and like in a Facebook style. So if you make this official, you create a positive spiral of recognition. By the way, I have 5 daughters, no joke, 1 wife, 1 marriage, 5 daughters. Apparently this is the only thing I can. And if I have one secret to lead 6 women, they lead me in fact, but it still works more or less. The secret is praise, praise, praise. So make sure for your remote workers, you praise. If there is a result, you praise the result and make it as public as possible. If there is no result yet, but they show a positive behavior, like supporting their team members and so on, praise the behavior. So, and if you don't find what to praise, look harder. So there is always things to praise, but you should put your positive glasses and make sure you praise publicly. That would give them energy and fuel to carry on. What should employees do? Yes, we mentioned that one. Now, how can this situation improve atmosphere in company or even company culture? I think one thing here is I have a method called virtual power teams, or it comprises the 10 big rocks. So these are the 10 success factors for retaining the gravity and unleashing the team power. And each of them is critical, but I think one I will mention just 3, which are related to this question, what can you do to improve the situation and the culture? First thing is focus on personality. People tend to neglect. They say, if I don't see people, I don't care what they do, what are they as individuals. For sure, if you work in the office and now you have to go home because of Corona, probably met the people, but there are special formats like Lifeline. I have 4 magic questions where you drill down in the personality, and people, even if they work together 10 years, within 10 minutes, they could learn more about each other. So there are tools to drill down in the personality. I'm happy to provide some further input on that. Then structured communication. Ensure you have a structured communication. Now, the manager was leading a local team. They are sent home. Somehow people get into the trap, the leaders, the managers. They would just call a team meeting if there is a problem. And they would probably dominate the discussion. There will be some finger pointing. The boss will talk most of the time. This is not effective. So make sure the communication is structured in such a way so you have forum where everyone can contribute. You could embed it in the agenda so everyone is having a slot, everyone can contribute and shine. And then make sure when you do this session, everyone start with a personal update. If you do it, the team decides. If it's like a weekly, now sent home, maybe you could do it more often, like twice a week. Everyone starts with a personal update since the last call. It gives a lot of flavor. People would share, what's the record in you, like half marathon, or how it tastes red wine from Chile. So it's very unique, but it gives the spice, which is missing when you pull people all of a sudden to work from home. And then the last one is appealing prize for outstanding performance. So with this good recognition I've mentioned, giving prize, giving a magnet for success. For example, that was another scenario. Not everybody was from home, but we were fully remote team. And we finished a 2 years project 3 months earlier, saved 250,000 euro and went to Tenerife, Canary Islands. But this was announced in advance. People went extra mile that if we finish 3 months early, we would save 250,000 and then 50 of them will invest for this journey. So there is a way to put an appealing price for outstanding performance. People would not go extra mile unless they have a special reason. For sure, there are other important factors like the goal to be set bottom up and so on, but price is one of them. And then, can you give 5 tips for working from home for the beginners? So let me give you the 5 tips for dummies. First one, focus on the personality. Make sure every time you have an interaction with somebody, even one-to-one or as a team, mention your highlight, mention your personal, you may have a low light, mention how you feel personally. Second one, over communicate. That's a biggie. I describe not just the task, but the goal and the why. Give more context so people can orientate themselves. Third one, meetings. Make everyone having a slot. So not just the boss talks, but everyone can contribute and shine. Design this into the agenda. Make sure if you have silent people, you ask them to contribute. Number 4, gamify. So this is like whatever you do, like for the recognition, you introduce a kudos system. Who do you recognize for what? Make sure people can collect points. You can gamify. It's the digital natives and the millennials need it, but not just them. I mean, it's a trend which helps. If for sure it takes time to set up, but you could do it in a very simple way. I mean, if you have whatever you have, Microsoft Teams, or you could quickly introduce a system without further development for example, recognition and collecting some points. Then number 5, I'll give you 6 tips, in fact, channel for urgent communication. If you have more time zones, this becomes critical because people get frustrated if they don't get a response. And usually you define, for example, the WhatsApp messenger or particular system, usually the messenger, the text messenger work well, but people commit to agreed response time that they define. For example, email I'll check 3 times a day, but this particular channel I will check like every 2 hours, and I commit to respond to you. Even not the full response, I've seen it, I'll come back to you tomorrow. So this is important. And then the online hours, if people are from home, they would do some errands, they would have some distractions, but make sure you have in the middle some hours where everybody is available and you could do team sessions. And the last one, the number 6 as a bonus, is fun. Have fun. Many ideas. I mean, from raising your cat on the video camera, it will create laughs. There will be snapshots. Kids, sometime you could involve. You could see how do you work with kids and how do you integrate kids, and you may give ideas, creative ideas for your colleagues. You could have a competition, for example, for the coolest desk, and people will post, creative ideas on their desk, or the coolest avatar. I mean, this includes, usually when I work and build virtual power teams, we establish the natural strengths and talents of the people, put it in the strength matrix, and everybody picks an avatar which is related to his strengths, a celebrity or a comic hero or a movie star, which kind of incorporates this qualities. And this is the avatar. And then you can play around it. There would be a lot of creative fuss and fun. So those are my questions. Hope it helps. If you'd like to find out more, I have developed an online crash course, virtual power teams. So these are 6 hours, 3 times, 3 days, each 2 hours within 1 week. So within 1 week, you can get your people fit for all the 10 big rocks and get not just your people fit for work for home, but the teams, you create a stronger gravity and the team performance will be impacted. Please check the link on the video and you will find more about it. I hope this was useful. If you have any questions, feel free to put a comment or send me an email at the info@peter-ivanov.com. Have a good one.